Yeah, I mean, I think I get it now that I started this thing. I get a lot of people reaching out similar to how they used to, or they do reach out to you, and they're kind of looking for that magic solution, or they read your story and they think, oh, he went through that, he's dealing with the shit. You know, he like what he's doing must be the answer for me too. And for me, I had a lot of people reach out in the beginning, and they're like, oh, I've had a concussion, I'm dealing with depression, like I've got the same issue, but 95% of the time that's not really the case. So the things that I really point to are similar to you, man. They're just like lifestyle changes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that good sleep, good food, exercise, and moving your body, and some mindfulness and journaling, some self-awareness stuff is hugely important. In terms of what I'm up to from that perspective, try to make sure I get a good sleep every night. I don't booze near as much as I used to. I still like to go out here and there, but it's kind of hard with the whole lockdown situation.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of nutrition, I actually hired. He calls himself a neuro nutritionist. His name's Chet Pinning. He's got an account on Instagram called Brain Ignition. But I basically hired him to do like a consult for me, and he asked like probably 300 different questions and like a questionnaire, reviewed it, and then he had blood work and everything too. So he basically put together this like protocol for me and like gave me foods that he didn't necessarily give me a plan. Like I don't necessarily think I'd want to follow like a meal plan and like have to eat like the specific same shit every day.
Yeah.
He basically provided different types of foods that I should eat more of and less of based on all those questions on my background, my blood work, and all that kind of stuff. So that's honestly been huge.
Mm-hmm.
I used to deal with a bit of brain fog and some gut issues, and basically after a month or two of working with him, and they completely went away. Uh,
Mm.
so that's from like the nutritional standpoint. Uh,
Um, on that, like, what were some of the things that you had like cut out that you
uh,
think made a difference? I'm just curious.
yeah, so it was kind of weird because I never thought of it this way, but a lot of like leafy green vegetables were
Mm.
for some reason not really agreeing with me.
Okay.
It had something to do with like my thyroid. He explained all this shit, and I don't really
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
the full detail of it. But I noticed I used to eat a lot of like spinach and kale and that kind of stuff, and I still have a little bit of it, but I cut a lot of that out, and it's helped my gut a lot, and it's also helped with some brain fog and other things. And there's been some like other like vegetables too that I've cut out, and I think a lot of it has to do. He was explaining it. I think a lot of it has to do with like your ancestry.
Okay.
So, for
Oh, so
example,
he does like a whole ancestry test too.
yeah, there's a bunch of questions and shit.
Holy.
Like the way the sentence that or the thing that he said that kind of put things into perspective for me. It's like, if you're of Eastern European descent, like chances are you're not supposed to be eating fucking blueberries in the wintertime,
Yeah.
right? Like you're like your ancestors, like the people that came before you, didn't have access to those foods, and that's not how their body functioned properly.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he came up with like a list of shit that I should eat and shouldn't eat, and it's helped a lot in terms of the stuff that I do eat now. I eat a lot of like fermented foods, so I
Right.
like sour or kombucha or that kind of shit on a fairly regular basis. I eat a lot more like red meat and like fatty fish. Uh,
Okay.
Lots of eggs, lots of grass-fed butter. It's like a higher protein diet, lots of like good saturated or good fat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then carbohydrates, I don't shy away from those at all by any means, but try to make sure that they're just coming from better sources. Like I don't really eat shit from like a box or a bag, and if I do, it's pretty rare. Uh,
Yeah. Real
and
food.
yeah, real food. And then I also got rid of a lot of artificial sweeteners. So I used to use like Splenda. I don't think having Splenda in your coffee here and there is necessarily a bad thing. But if you're drinking like Diet Coke and having a lot of artificial sweeteners, it can be really kind of toxic to your body. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this, but when you're consuming that stuff, like your body doesn't know what to do with it. And if you're consuming enough of it, it puts your body in it gives your body like an anxiety response. So
Mm.
getting rid of that shit can be super, super helpful. And then just some other basic stuff like just like drinking a bunch of water, throw some,
Yeah.
throw some lemon in it, a bit of salt in it to stay hydrated too. Cut back on the coffee a little bit. I used to rely on that. And then in terms of booze, like I just, first of all, I don't drink as much as I used to. And when I do send it, like it's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just going to drink casually, I kind of stay away from like craft beers and that kind of shit. And he actually recommended that I drink like Bud Light and Sapporo. It's like
As opposed to the Japanese beer, right?
Yeah, it's like all rice based stuff. And it like surprisingly, like my gut, I used to get like my gut used to be really fucked up for like 2 or 3 days after.
Yeah.
But drinking that stuff, it just doesn't really affect it anymore as long as I'm not having fucking 12 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so yeah, that covers like the nutrition side. In terms of working out, like I've always been in the gym and that kind of stuff. I'm lucky during COVID, like, I mean, it's a lockdown situation now and I'm in self-isolation because I just got back from Costa. So I'm kind of without one, but my buddies have a private gym that I've been lucky enough to go to. So I'm in there all the time and just making sure that I, move my body every day. And then in terms of the mindfulness meditation stuff, it's, that kind of, I do that stuff every day, but I don't necessarily do the same practice. I kind of just do it in a way that feels right. And, when I get bored of it, I'm not afraid to kind of change it up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of the shit that I'm up to. It boils down to just, giving your body what it needs. I think that's really overrated. A lot of people are, like you said, are kind of looking for that magic pill or that specific thing. But in reality, that's just not how it works. And I think